Hello everyone, Nerd Squared here. This is going to be a post-commentary of a recent really good speedrun that I got in Levitation. Levitation, just real quickly for those that don't know, it's a fan-made campaign slash mod for Half-Life Alyx, so it's created by a very talented team of developers. I think they did a very good job with it. And then it was uploaded by FMP1 on Steam to the Steam Workshop of Half-Life Alyx around November of last year. In terms of the story, it's a bit of a sequel to the main Half-Life Alyx campaign, and it's also a much harder version of the game because there's a lot of rooms where the game packs a bunch of enemies really closely, and collectively they just hit you really hard. So, for a speedrun, presents an interesting challenge for the routing because you want to go fast, obviously, because that's the point of a speed run, but you also want to play it safe to make sure you don't die, even more so than the main campaign. So you'll see in this run even that I'll take a few safety heals just to ensure that I can tank damage from enemies safely. I'm doing this post commentary because this run, as you'll very quickly see once we get going here after this cutscene, is a little chaotic. So I wanted to explain it for those that don't know this game as a speedrun, and especially those that don't know VR speedruns, and also as a to lay the groundwork for future commentary videos if I ever submit this for marathons. So we have a bit of a cutscene at the start here with the G-Man, as is typical with Half-Life games. We get a little speech from him at the start of the game, and since we can't move around here, I just like to mess around by smacking him in the face. Uh, he doesn't have collision in this opening cutscene, so you can just like slap him like you saw me do there in VR, and your hands will go right through his face. Alright, and we'll start off very soon here. Time for this starts as soon as I start teleporting to move, right there. The auto splitter, there is an auto splitter for this game, but it doesn't quite work with the mod. Uh, load removal does work, but the auto split does not. So I have to manually split it by just going over to my keyboard at the start and end of the run. And that right there was pretty simple. I just had to move quickly through those first few rooms. And also in that second part, I was going up to the monitors there to hit a few triggers so that the low trigger appeared at the end there. So you'll notice as I was going up those stairs, I was moving very, very fast. So this game has two modes of movement, same as the main Half-Life Alyx campaign. You can either move with your stick, move with the control stick, or moving your IRL body, like your own body, or you can teleport by using the right stick. Uh, However, you can also, in the Steam VR controller bindings for the game, you can bind whichever action to whichever button you want. Uh, and in this case, I've bound the grip buttons because I use Alyx touch controllers because I'm on a Quest 2. I bind the grip buttons on my Alyx controllers to teleport. And within that, I set the deactivation threshold to 10%, like a really low amount, and then the deactivation threshold to 100%. What that does is when I hold down my grip button, which I have set in both controllers for this, it'll spam teleport every other frame, uh, just about, and that makes it so I can move really, really fast, to the point where it's significantly faster than just moving with the stick or moving my body in real life. I also went through a few barriers there. Um, you can tell if you pause while you're in the middle of teleporting, which is pretty easy to time with fast teleports, and then you move IRL while pause, you can extend where you're going during a teleport. So you can use that to clip through walls like I did with those barriers. And I'm duplicating ammo here. You do that by very quickly grabbing the ammo out of your backpack for the pistol and then putting it back in. The game does not cannot react fast enough to update your ammo count, so it just winds up duplicating ammo for every ammo pack that you put back in. And I duplicated there because I need some more ammo for a later combat section later on in Chapter 6. And I just did a pretty big skip there. So what I did there was a trick called zero zipping. So if you fast teleport, and then while you're in the middle of fast teleporting, you try to teleport with the right stick, there's this little window where the foot indicator that shows where you're teleporting disappears. So, if you, while you're in that little window where the foot indicator is gone, you pause the game and then, in this case, switch to blink movements, or just anything other than continuous, which is the normal movement mode we use for this, the game will freak out because it thinks you're trying to teleport a bit too fast, and so it winds up zipping you to the origin of the map. And it just so happens that in the previous chapter I just finished, chapter 3, uh, it ports you to a train that's at the very end of the map. And because we're on top of the train after zero zipping, we can just fly right to the end and not have to do a big fight sequence there on the train. And even in inbounds, you can just extend a jump to the walls on the train and you don't have to do the fight. And here in chapter 4, he hungers. We do another zero zip right at the start. And I had to do a couple of height adjusts to get to the ceiling here. Height adjusting is utilizes another Steam VR feature in the game. Or actually, no, it's just a Half-Life Alyx accessibility thing. Where there's a button to crouch and a button to stand up. If we crouch IRL and then uncrouch, first uncrouch by using the stand button and then uncrouch IRL, we can go through the ceiling. And then we save load to get fully through the ceiling because we're partially stuck and we have to save load to get out of it.
Oh, nice.
And then once I'm through the ceiling here, I move a bit out of bounds to get to this part outside of the train. I have to be very careful when teleporting down there as well, because surrounding that part where I was teleporting down the side of the train car, there's a lot of death triggers, so I have to be very precise with my teleporting to avoid dying. Dying in this game is very slow, because much like in the main campaign, if you die at all, you have to wait about 5 to 10 seconds for the load menu to appear, and then you can actually load a save and redo the trick. And then I did a very precise teleport into an extended jump to get into this train car. This leads to the very last room in the chapter. But I'm doing a bit of a roundabout method to clip out of bounds here by doing another height adjust. I say it's a very roundabout method because you can actually just go through this hallway and extend a jump through a door that leads into this next room that I'm trying to get into. But it requires a very far extended jump to do that, and it turns out to be a little bit faster with some testing I've done for a different category, but I did not know that in this run, so I just did this very roundabout method where I moved out of bounds and then extended jump from out of bounds in order to get into this puzzle room. Because normally what happens in this chapter is you have an encounter with Jeff, who is one of the main antagonists or main monsters of Half-Life Alyx. He's this clicker-like enemy you'd have to avoid with stealth. This is where the game very much turns into survival horror. We can completely skip that puzzle by doing a few extended jumps. And you're supposed to go off to the side into this separate room to turn on the power to get into this elevator, but you can just extend the jump through the door of the elevator and get in early. So yeah, it was a pretty clean chapter 4 overall, but it probably could have been a little faster because, like I said, with some routing I've been doing for a different category for this mod, you can actually do a slightly faster route there that saves a bit of time by just not doing that roundabout method of going out of bounds that I did. So I'm moving a little slowly in this first room in chapter 5 after doing that extended jump, because there's a barnacle there in the hallway, several barnacles in fact, and if you teleport too fast while near a barnacle, you can accidentally teleport into the hitbox of their tongue. So I move very quickly there, or I move kind of slowly there, which is regular teleporting, to be sure that I don't accidentally get into the barnacle. And I do an extended jump to a couple of extended jumps through walls there to avoid a puzzle where you'd have to Grab an egg sac from what I think is some sort of electric manta ray. At least that's what I like to call it. Then you'd have to put a couple in to power a bridge
Okay, hold
to
on.
get over to this area,
You gotta
but we can just
practice those
extend the
moves.
jump
It's
through
like
walls
pretty
instead.
wonky.
Now we're here. We have to pull these cords. It's in order of the colors of the cords that are attached to these levers. You start with red, and then the orange cord that I went to, and then the two yellow cords. I don't think the order of the yellow cords matters. I just do this order that you saw there because I think it's the fastest. And then you pull the light blue cord to
Snap the
end off
stabilizer
with.
back in place.
That stops the fan, so you can go down there and enter this elevator. Believe me, I've tried clipping down there without deactivating the fan. It does not work. You die as
What?
soon as you hit
How
the
does
fan
that work?
blades. I'm going to do an extended jump, or not an extended jump,
There we go.
a
That should
zero
do it.
zip here.
Finally.
I
There
messed
we
it up a
go.
little bit, so I had to
That
retry
takes too
there.
long.
I also made sure to pick up a syringe, because this chapter is the hardest chapter in the entire game, at least in terms of going fast. Because this chapter, out of all the chapters in the game, in my
Hey, here's the
opinion,
really hard part. You have to get past
has
these
the
enemies.
most enemies out of any chapter in the game, and so it's by far and away the hardest. You'll see we go in the tower here, which is basically this big construction site. There's a ton of enemies
These
packed
manhacks
into
are
one
pretty
room. The
manipulative
most
too.
dangerous being these
Ooh, wait, I
three
got stuck.
combine soldiers, because they can hit really, really hard if you're not careful.
What?
I also had this really weird bug here
Okay,
that I've
that's a
never
glitch
ever
I've never
seen
seen
before,
before.
where I guess
Alright,
this door just
this should
duplicated
be easy.
itself. So instead of just pulling it open like I normally do, I
Okay.
had to extend a jump through this extra door that appeared out of nowhere. Which isn't too hard because
Okay,
that door
never
is
seen
pretty
that
thin,
before.
but still kind of annoying that I had to deal with that.
Okay, screw off manhacks. Dude.
Yeah, you can see there's a bunch of manhacks and a few combat soldiers here, so it's very hard to go through this part fast. Because you want to, like I was saying earlier, you want to go fast, but you also want to make sure you conserve your health and don't die. So typically I play this part very, very slow, even if it does lose time, just for the sake of
Fuck it, YOLO.
consistency. At this point, though, I accidentally missed a few shots on that common soldier and decided to screw it and go for this
Oh my
extended
god.
jump to get through
If I
this
didn't make that,
door,
I would have died.
which you can probably
Jesus.
hear in
Grab the
the
suit.
video. I was panicking real hard because I did not
Alright,
expect to
hold on.
survive
Let me
this
get
in
a
all
sec.
honesty. This doing that extended jump through
Let's
that
find
door
some Levitation
skips a
code.
puzzle of sorts where we'd have to kill a
Auto.
strider
There we go.
that was kind of shooting at me earlier as I was moving through that outside section.
I completely
But we can completely avoid that,
well, it
and having to
sounds
deal
like
with the enemies there by doing that extended
barely
jump.
strats what I just did.
Then we have to do a
I
quick
was a
puzzle
little
there
slow.
to
Could have
bring
gone a little faster there.
the the lock
Still fine.
on a certain point of the. I guess it's an electric ball. It's not too hard, but if you get a really bad pattern, it's very hard to win.
Nice.
Restarting it if you do happen to fail it is pretty quick though, and with where this chapter with where this game is in terms of optimization, I'm typically not too worried about messing that up because I tend to make up the time I lose from failing this puzzle later on. So yeah, this chapter can be done a lot faster because you can do a strat where you completely YOLO going up the tower and not kill any of those enemies. You saw I took my time there to kill a couple of the combine soldiers and one of the manhacks that were going at me there. But you can actually just shoot the one combine soldier that you might have seen there at the top of the stairs and then do the extended jump through the door. So I can save a little bit of time there, but
Hey backquicks.
um,
How's it going?
with how risky this chapter is, no matter which strat you do, seemingly, uh, might take me a little bit to practice that before I start implementing it.
But yeah, if the tunnel clip
So now we have another cutscene.
in chapter 7 after the
At the
zero zip goes
beginning
really,
of the
really
first
well,
chapter and
this could be
partway through
17
this
already.
chapter, there's
Super
just a
sick.
lot of cutscenes.
But submitting
But that
is
changes
pretty
once
hard
we
for me
get
right
to
now
chapter
because
7,
this game
because
is
that's when
rough.
it really gets action packed. Chapter 7, quick story refresher again. The whole point of this game is, like I said, it's a continuation of the main Half-Life Alyx campaign. We're looking for these two people
Also,
named Barry
apologies
and
for how
Maya.
fast I
They're
don't
kind of
Sure.
two
That's
members of the resistance
immediately,
movement that Alyx is starting against the
able to get
Combine
that
in City 17.
on playing the game.
They've gone to this levitating
The only
building,
way I can
hence
actually
the name of the
chat
mod,
is to
Levitation.
take off my headset.
And so our goal this whole game is to try to find them. And we
So,
think, me and Alex and Russell think anyway, that they're in this area named Sector X, and that's where we're going to go for the next chapter. Sector X is a bit of a round improvement, I think, for it as well. Because here I do a very odd trick where uh, I do a zero zip right at the
I'm gonna
start, and
try.
then that
I'm
brings
gonna
me
try
to
to
this
do
tunnel
the
somewhere in the
chapter very,
map,
very, very fast.
and then I
Really
IRL
depends
move
on the
back
tunnel
and
clip,
forth
pretty
while
much.
adjusting my camera with the right stick to
Well, for the most
clip
part.
inside
In
from
the
where I
past,
zero
you
zips
would
to.
probably save it.
It's very slow because you'll see here after I zero zip,
Actually, I probably
it
could have
takes me a
mentioned
while
at
to
the
get through
time.
the tunnel.
I
I
guess I'll
found that going
go all
inbounds
the
in
way
this
here.
bit might be a little faster in terms of consistency because you can see it takes me a little bit of fiddling to get through the tunnel. At some point, though, when I get really, really optimal with this game, which will definitely happen at some point, that's going to be faster to do the zero zip anyway,
That's
but
pretty
that's a
fast.
little potential route improvement for the future.
Got my first
Because when you
kill
do this area
of the day.
inbounds without doing that zero zip, it actually doesn't take very long to get here. So I kill those two Combine soldiers just so that they aren't a problem as I do this next room, because I'll be going in here to grab another one of those
Run
X-Sacks
away,
from the
Alex,
Manta
run.
Rays. I'll put it in my glove here for later, so I don't have to hold it as I go through this next area. That one antlion I was running past can be a bit of a jerk and get in the way and prevent you from teleporting to fast teleport, but it wasn't too much of an issue there. And you're supposed to fight the antlions there, but you can just avoid that by doing an extended jump. And we put this X-Sack in that receptacle there so that we can power the elevator here. To get back up to a big fight
Oh,
sequence
my
at the
ultimate
top of
goofy.
this area. You can actually go to this elevator early without that electric manta ray X-Sack by doing an extended jump through that barrier, but you actually can't progress because this elevator does not activate until you put that X-Sack into the receptacle and deactivate the barrier. So we actually do have to go out of our way to get the X-Sack and avoid the antlions. And you're supposed to turn off the power with a bit of a puzzle to deactivate these barriers, but you can extend a jump through the barriers, so we completely avoid that. And we have a pretty lengthy and also pretty difficult fight sequence here at the what's basically very close to the end of the run. So we have to deactivate the power here in this area to basically cause this building to collapse. And to do that, we have to pull out the power from these plugs. If you've ever played the main campaign, and there's that section in Chapter 11 where you took power out of these plugs, much like what I'm doing here, and then like with the gravity glove, with the gravity gun in the Half-Life 2, you would shoot the enemies with this electric power. It's like that. Except we have to do a lot of these plugs in one go. Now, what makes it even more difficult is the entire time you're doing this, you have these lasers, as you can see, that alternate spots on the wall that you have to be very mindful of, and at the same time, a bunch of manhacks are damaging you. So on a first playthrough, it's actually very, very difficult, and this part in particular caused me a lot of trouble on my casual playthrough, but it isn't too difficult here, because I was on full health going into this fight because of a safety heal I took, and we're on story mode, which is the easiest difficulty, so the hand hacks don't do too much damage here. And that's the end of the
I
map
know
right
we
there.
just started, but I think
This next
this
map
is
is
it.
also
The
fairly
elevator's gonna
lengthy
miss me
normally
if I
as
zero
well,
zip somehow.
because there's a big
That
fight
is
sequence you'd have to do
insane,
in the middle
man.
of it, and you'd also have to play a bit of the floor is lava to deactivate a barrier to get through an area.
Okay.
But conveniently, there's an extended jump, or a zero zip rather, that we can
Okay.
do to get right at the end of the
Well, it's like
area.
1440 or something.
Um, I stopped the timer a little late there because, like I said, because of the fact that the auto split and with the load remover slash auto splitter. It does not work with this mod. I had to go over to my timer or my keyboard
No,
to press the
fucking
spacebar to end
no.
the time
What?
manually. Yeah, you can probably hear in the video that
The
I'm
confidence
freaking
set
out
that he
because
was gonna be able to loft
my
the
ultimate
goal
goal
too.
with
I
this
thought he was gonna go
category
wild
was
against
below
us.
15
What is
minutes
going
because I
on?
wanted to see how far I could push this mod as the sole router and
Oh
glitch
my
hunter and
gosh.
runner for it. And I feel like
Alright, well, stream's
sub
over, I
15 was a
guess.
very solid time.
Nah, I'll keep
Like I
playing too.
said, there's some round
Like,
improvements I can make that could probably make it help bring it a little lower.
sorry.
Like I think sub 14 at this point is very easily possible for me. It's just with how risky just with how hard this game is and how brutal this game can be when you're trying to go fast and you avoid any combat. Uh,
But
you
yeah,
can die pretty easily. So that might
sub
not happen
10
for a little
minutes.
bit, but I'm happy with where I've
If
brought this
Evans
run up to
ever
this
picks up
point.
this category, he could probably do it, but I don't
And
think
this
I could
isn't
pick
the
it.
end of
I don't
Levitation
think
and
I'd be capable of
speedruns,
it.
because I'm running another category
Unless
for
I'm on
this
some
game.
skip or something.
I'm running an inbounds run for this, which is basically like any percent, but you can't use any of the fancy shenanigans I
Oh my
did
gosh.
here to go out of bounds. And even then, even without being able to go out of bounds, there's some pretty interesting stuff you can do. So, very interested to see where I can take this game in the future. And this is a pretty good first step towards that. So yeah, that was my post commentary over my Levitation PB. Like I was saying, very excited to see where I can take this run in the future. Thank you all for watching.